Sure.
Hello, 12th grade class. Welcome to my very first random video because a lot of you have been missing classes. So, welcome to a quick blurb. I'm not going to put too much extra effort into it to make it too fancy, just to kind of give you an idea of maybe something you missed during class for whatever reason you might have been absent. So I'm just going to go over a few of the slides. Remember, for the test, you're going to want to have the list of matching of vocabulary words. You'll also want to have this sheet of paper that I handed out in class. It has a lot of blanks. It's right from my own personal notes. You'll want to try to fill that in as best you can. You can get it directly from the textbook. That's where I got mine from. So I just want to walk you through something you might have missed during class. It may not be the most exciting, or it might be hard for me to make it too exciting through the computer, but I will do the best I can. With that stated, let's go back to the slide that I gave out to you from 1848. So I'm going to do a little talking, and we'll go from there. So things you need to know for your test. You need to know the year. The Communist Manifesto was written in 1848, co-authored by both Karl Marx and his friend Friedrich Engels. Remember that his friend got his money primarily from his father's own factory, which is ironic for a guy that's all about helping the people. His friend is actually financing it through the people, through the factory. So you need to know this slide. I want to harp on and remember that there are 10 commandments. You don't have to know them verbatim, but the part you want to be aware of is that they are really advocating for free education, free healthcare, getting rid of private property. That is the big piece you should walk away with in understanding what the 10 Commandments is all about. There are two pillars of Marxism that are holding this whole thing up. The first one is Dialectical Materialism. I had started to mention this in class, but I'm going to give you another quick blurb on what that looks like. I've been talking with Christian Manko after class, and we had determined a better way of how do you figure out the differences between socialism, Marxism, and communism. And part of that is understanding this house. So I'm going to build it. So there's two pillars, but let me first start with the base. As I said in class, at the base of Marxism, the foundation is socialism. You can't even begin to build the house until you have the foundation, the concrete. Now, the concrete is made of three different things. We'll get to that in a little bit. So as I'm building the house, I want to build some pillars. The pillars are what's going to support the entire structure. In Marxism, there are two structures. The pillars. One is called economic determinism. As you can get from the sheet of paper that gave you all those words that has the matching, you'll see that word on there. The belief that history is all about money. Money determines everything. That's what holds up this entire house. The second pillar of Marxism is going to be a fancy word called Dialectical Materialism. This is this word, Dialectical Materialism. And what Dialectical Materialism is, as I said in class, it's like a rotary phone. It's the idea that there's a cycle. So I'm going to put up here. So this particular thing is all about conflict. The people living in the house, this couple, doesn't have to be a romantic couple, just these two friends, these two people in the house. The belief is that they will only success will grow in their lives as they have conflict and they're going to fight against each other. So the dialectical materialism has to do with a cycle, just like a rotary phone. And that cycle has three different parts. One is the thesis, one is the antithesis, the antithesis, and the S is the synthesis, the brand new way of things. The way things are, the fight against it, and then the new way of life that comes about because of it. So in class, you might have missed it, we had watched The Butler. If you have not seen the scene, you feel free to look it up online. It is a very intense scene of the sit-in in which African Americans sat at the counter and they protested the thesis, segregation, the way things were. They fought against it with a sit-in. And the new way of things is that we had a lot of human rights that changed due to these people who believed in a higher cause, being spit at in the face and yet still determining that I'm going to not hit back. Well, this kind of thing, this kind of dial, this cycle is known as dialectical materialism. The belief that we can never grow in our relationship inside the house until we have conflict. And the more conflict we have over time, we're going to continue to build up this house. So this house, as we're building it up through conflict, the more conflict we have, the more we're building this house. And the whole house is held, the roof, is all about that no one owns anything. Specifically, no one owns any private property. You can't say you own anything yourself. Why? Because everyone in the house is going to share. So no one says I own something specifically because everyone in the house is sharing. The food, clothing, their money, everything is shared communally in the house. Now, that might have a few fights along the way, but remember, Marxism's about conflict. The more we fight inside the house, we're only going to get closer or continue to grow and become better. This entire structure, altogether, is known as Marxism. Marxism's end goal is that as we continue to build up and up and up and up, we're going to find a utopian state of perfection. This perfection is communism. When we all live together happily in the house, we have had a lot of conflict, we have talked about money, and we are now socially holding everything in common. We are now living in a perfect state. This is known as communism. Marxism is just the idea of how to get there. It's the structure. When we build socialism and these two pillars and getting rid of private property, the goal, as conflict builds the house, will eventually reach a utopian perfect state. Communism. It's this idea of having a perfection at the top. The problem is, as you have conflict inside the house, maybe you're going to hurt each other, kill each other in the process, but according to Marx, that would be okay. What I want to focus right on now is this bottom part, the 3, 1, 2, 3, which is the concrete. Like, what makes up socialism? If you saw these 3 things occur in your country, this would be the idea that socialism is about to occur. So I kind of covered this is already in your notes, what those 3 parts of dialectical materialism means. Let me jump over to what socialism is. So let's go through it. Here goes. Socialism, if it has concrete, it's made of 3 parts. Number 1, the beginning of socialism always begins with taxation. How are we going to afford all this free stuff? Well, you're going to pay for it. The second part is government starts to take over business. In the video we watched in class, Venezuela had over 1,000 businesses taken over by Hugo Chavez. That would have been the beginning of the idea that the government's going to start controlling business. And third, the elimination of laws protect your ability to say you own something privately. Once you build all this stuff, this is the first step. This is the foundation that's hopefully, in Marxism's idea and ideology, will lead towards communism. That's the whole point. This first step is socialism, and the big house on top is going to be communism if we get to the top. You have to first get rid of all private property in order to have that ability, because if you own something, you're going to say, I want it. Well, you don't own it. We own it communally. Communism is this idea behind we all work in common, and thus we all share it. Obviously, in the middle of that house, if you're trying to do this, violence and conflict are inseparable from Marxism. Because if you're trying to share everything in the middle, how many of you know when you share, you fight? In a perfect world, maybe everyone shares everything and they're happy, but in a real world, everyone's fighting. Everyone's trying to get what they want because they're looking out for themselves. So all of history, according to Marx, can be determined by the injustice that we see that's caused by money. For example, in the cartoon that's seen here, the people on the right feel that it is unjust that they have all this weight on their side, and yet they still cannot compare to the weight that's coming from the one man on the right side. In class I said, money is at the root of everything. The fact that I teach, the fact that you're a student, everything revolves around money. The last part of my quick introduction here is I want to mention, because I didn't get in time in class, is that there's a difference in a Marxist state when they're kind of transitioning into socialism. There is an allowance for you still to maintain a certain sense of your religious freedom. The problem is, don't be thrown off by the word freedom, because it's not what you think it is. There's a difference between a freedom of worship versus a freedom of religion. Currently, in the United States, we have a freedom of religion. You have the ability to go anywhere you want, pray anywhere you want, bring a Bible, share your faith, under the freedom that comes because of your ability in the United States. However, a freedom of worship under a Marxist state would be different as it transitions. Freedom of worship would allow you to gather in your church, but it would not allow you to take that same worship and then take it to a public place, such as maybe holding a church service in in a park, holding a little mini get-together, maybe at an ice cream place, at Panera Bread, A freedom of worship would not allow you to do that because that would be a public space shared in common. You can keep your beliefs as long as you keep them in your space. Freedom of worship allows you to keep it in your space, but don't bring it into my space. So these two are very different. They're not the same. And according to Karl Marx, he says that religion is the impotence, as in, religion is what's stopping us from truly growing. Not only private property, which is an issue, but secondarily, religion is really holding you back. Do you really believe that everyone's born bad? The Marxist says, I don't believe people are born bad. People are born basically good. We are the proletariat, the workers. It's the bourgeoisie, these bosses, these owners. They are the ones that are bad. We are born basically good. And the things that are stopping us, again, is all about money and religion. Marxist even relates Christianity being called as if it was a drug. They say Christianity is the opiate or the opium of the people. It's a drug that people can't seem to get enough of. They're so twisted. They're so controlled by this religion. He says that Christianity is bad. It defends oppressors. It justifies slavery. And they're so focused on their future, they're not focused on the here, right now. Why are we focusing on after death, which doesn't exist? Let's focus on the life now, on the life of the proletariat, on the worker. Lastly, and this is the big thing you didn't know, there is going to be 3 short answers on the test. You only have to do 2 of them. You are allowed tomorrow in class or during any time during school to come to me and ask me, is this correct? So tonight, if you want to come up with an answer to 2 of these 3, and you want to say, if this was the test today, how many points would I have gotten for this? I'll let you know. So that's a little hint for whoever happens to watch this video. The test is going to have all 3 of these questions. You have to choose 2 of them. I suggest you pick the latter of the 2. The first possible question you can do is this one. The second question. The third question. On the test, you will choose 2 of these questions to answer. And like I said, I'm giving you time right now. Today is Tuesday. Wednesday, if you come to me, give me your answer, a full answer of how you're going to answer that question. I will let you know the grade you would have gotten. So you'll be totally prepped for this test. If you have any other questions, please feel free to email me. I will be up late tomorrow night till 11 p.m. Any emails before then I can answer. After that, I will be asleep. Yeah. And with that, that's kind of the end of this presentation. And I look forward to the rest of the week and, of course, Christmas break that's coming up. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.